Hey! Um, it's a beautiful day to bike over the Brooklyn Bridge to Astor Place and present a plan for the future of transportation in New York City. Let's be clear, though, we're here today because New York City's public transportation and its streets are at a crossroads. Our subways and mass transit are literally under attack by the President of the United States and the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. Traffic deaths are rising. Too many New Yorkers feel unsafe walking their kids to school, biking on our streets, or taking the train to work. And our curbs and sidewalks are often in a state of chaos from intersecting deliveries and vehicles. Meanwhile, City Hall is MIA on transportation. The Adams administration has fallen woefully short of the NYC streets plan and even of their own promises for delivering on the bus and bike lanes that all New Yorkers deserve. But look, it does not have to be that way. Cities around the world, cities like London, Copenhagen, and Paris, they're showing us the way. New Yorkers deserve a world-class transit system and a world-class public realm. How about that? We can build a New York City where a kid can safely bike to school, where a senior can cross the street without fear, where the subways feel safe and clean and reliable, where small businesses can get their deliveries without worrying it's going to lead to an altercation, and where no one has to choose between getting somewhere fast and staying alive. That's why I'm proud today to introduce Green Light for New York City, my bold, transformative transportation agenda to make our streets safer, our transit system stronger, and our neighborhoods more livable for every New Yorker in all 5 boroughs. Today I'm proud to announce that more than 20 of New York City's most dedicated, passionate, and effective transportation advocates are backing my bid for mayor of New York City. Thank you very much to all of them. These are leaders who have fought day in and day out to make our streets safer, to make our transit stronger, to make our city more just and inclusive. And I could not be prouder to have them supporting this plan for our streets and transit and supporting my campaign for mayor. These are the champions of bike lanes, busways, and street redesigns. These are the watchdogs who push the city to do better and will when I'm mayor as well. These are the organizers who turn policy into pavement and plans into people-first streets. I've spent my whole career in public office fighting alongside them. My first big battle in public office was the Prospect Park West bike lane. And we've gone from there to pass life-saving legislation, including the Reckless Driver Accountability Act, to implement and defend congestion pricing, to invest in the subway signals and upgrades that New York City so desperately needs. And just as I've been an ally, a steadfast ally in the past, I will bring that same approach of partnership to City Hall when I'm elected mayor. Transportation advocates are a spirited bunch, and they don't always agree. But I think there's one thing that pretty much every transportation advocate agrees on. Andrew Cuomo was a disaster for New York City transit. Yeah?
Yes.
Word. Let's just kind of go on a little bit of a history tour. Cuomo drove Andy Byford, the train daddy, out of town. He blocked real MTA reform, and he left us with the summer of hell. He talked a big game on funding the subways, talked a big game on congestion pricing, then he flipped, then he stalled, then he walked away when it mattered most. He used the MTA as a political toy and as a piggy bank, taking away transit funds from New York City to fund upstate ski resorts, leaving New Yorkers with broken subway signals, with delayed upgrades, with rising fares, with an underfunded capital plan. And while Cuomo played politics, our trains crumbled, our buses crawled, and our streets stayed dangerous. The people who know New York City streets best have made their pick. They've had enough of Cuomo-style politics. They want a mayor who will fix the transit system, not break it further. I will be, as mayor, the transit and safe streets champion that New York City has always deserved. Which is why I'm so excited today to announce the first comprehensive transportation plan in the New York City mayor's race, a transformative public agenda that focuses on making public transit work better, on making our streets safer, on making our public realm more livable, on making our curbs better managed, on making our city thrive with the best mass transit system in not just the country, but in the world. So let's start with talking about transit. I will, alongside advocates here, continue the fight for 6-minute service, because waiting 15 minutes for a train or a bus during rush hour is just not a system that New Yorkers can rely on. I will continue to push for real funding for the MTA to make our stations accessible and to expand fair fares so every New Yorker can afford to ride. In that vein, I do want to say that I'm pleased with for the first time in a long time, the MTA capital plan is fully funded and at the highest levels yet, because New Yorkers deserve that 6-minute service, deserve modern signals, deserve accessible stations, and that's what we'll have when I'm mayor. Uh, My plan to end street and subway homelessness for people with serious mental illness will mean New Yorkers feel safe on the subway and no one has to sleep on the subway platforms and the stoops of our buildings. My number one commitment in this campaign from the start has been to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. That'll make our city safer. That'll make our city more humane. It'll feel much more like New York City when you don't get in the subway worrying about who's living there. And it'll mean a world-class transit system that's moving forward as infrastructure and a city that's moving forward to be safe and humane for all its residents. And with the buses going by us here, I want to talk about bringing buses into the 21st century with real bus rapid transit, not just stuck in individual boroughs, but connecting the Bronx and Manhattan, connecting Brooklyn and Queens, enabling people to get from Brooklyn out to JFK. We can have world-class bus rapid transit, center-running bus lanes, and buses that actually move like mass transit with on-time service that gets you where you need to go. One feature that we're going to have on all of our buses that I'm going to fight like hell to make sure the MTA delivers is all-door boarding, with Omni now available at both in the front and the back of every bus. It is long past time for all-door boarding on every single bus in New York City. Of course, fixing transit is critical, but not by itself enough. Each year, too many lives are lost to traffic violence. And we've seen that time and time again with just each new heartbreaking tragedy like this recent one that killed a family out in Brooklyn and reminded me so much of that horrific crash at 9th Street and 5th Avenue a few years ago that stole the lives of Abigail Blumenstein and Josh Liu. So I will relaunch and supercharge Vision Zero with bold, data-driven street redesigns, with better management, with stronger enforcement, and with more effective technology to end traffic deaths. That's the vision in Vision Zero, is zero traffic deaths on the streets of our city. We have forgotten that goal. We are moving in the wrong direction, but we can give New Yorkers safer streets and peace of mind on every street, on every crosswalk, at every intersection. So I will deliver on the spirit and the letter of the NYC Streets Plan, which people here did so much to pass. So thank you guys for that hard work. And reclaim streets for people citywide. In the Manhattan core, where congestion pricing now yields a streetscape dividend, and in every one of the boroughs where New Yorkers are hungry for open streets, for plazas, for universal daylighting, for the livable streets that everyone deserves. I will bring back and strengthen the Reckless Driver Accountability Act, which the Adams administration unfortunately allowed to lapse with nothing in its place, to change driver behavior and to keep reckless drivers off the streets. I'm enthusiastic about the effort right now in Albany to stop super speeders, but let's be clear, what's needed is a partnership between New York City DOT managing our streets and city and state law with escalating penalties to give people a chance to reform their behavior, but stop them from using their cars like weapons aimed at their neighbors. And I'll fundamentally reform how New York City enforces its traffic laws by focusing on what works, by rebuilding trust, and by holding everyone accountable, including City Hall and the NYPD. If we want safer streets, we also need to manage what's on them. So that does mean cracking down on illegal mopeds, which are motor vehicles, which need to have license plates and licensed drivers. And it means regulating the delivery apps because Uber Eats and Seamless and DoorDash are making billions of dollars on our streets. They've got a responsibility for keeping people safe. They've got a responsibility for the trips that they take. It means finally fixing the BQE and transforming the Cross Bronx from a pollution nightmare, Gesundheit, into livable, connected part of the Bronx. It means safer loading zones, actually. It was deliveries that blocked my route here this morning. Every block that has small businesses with deliveries ought to have a loading zone on it in a way that's designed to be safe, in tandem with the bike lane, so you don't wind up with blocked bike lanes, and you don't wind up with double parking, and you don't wind up with altercations for small businesses who need things delivered every day to serve New Yorkers in the ways that we love. Curb management in this city is a mess, and I've got a plan to fix it. We fight over scraps of parking while our sidewalks are blocked and our buses get stuck in traffic. That will end on my watch. All right, thank you guys. All right. To make that happen, we'll use smart parking tools like they're using in Montreal and Paris. We'll clean our streets more efficiently with real-time data that make it easier to comply, but also get back to the days when outside parking worked to actually get the streets cleaned. And we'll crack down on the worst offenders, whoever they are, including placard abuse by city agencies. No more. Ends on my watch. This is more than just a transportation plan. It's a vision for a safer, healthier, thriving, more just New York City. One that people love walking down the streets in. One where people feel joyful when they're out on the streets of our city. This is the vibrant New York City that people come here for, that New Yorkers love, even when they might be stuck briefly behind slow-walking tourists on the sidewalks. We don't actually have a congestion charge for slow-walking tourists, but what we have is the possibility of a beautiful, thriving, livable city. A city where the subway is your first choice, not your last resort. A city where you can bike to work or walk your kid to school, or even get to the beach without sitting in traffic. A city where we stop making excuses and start making progress. I've got the record. I've got the plan to get it done. And I've got dreams for how we can even go bigger than that. Let's remember that after Andrew Cuomo, after Andrew Cuomo drove Andy Byford out of New York City, he went back to London, where he led TfL, Transport for London, which really shows what you can achieve when you dream big and have a unified system. And we could have that here, one that would enable New Yorkers to get from the ferry to the subway, onto the city bike, even onto the path and out to Newark, all with the swipe of one OmniCard. So when we say let's dream about a city under unified control, we like to dream about getting all the way to unified control, but let's just start with that. Your Omni on your phone or your OmniCard could help you get on and off the ferry, ride on a city bike, on the subway, one seat ride out to Newark, big, bold thinking of the kind that I'm offering today, the kind imagined in that idea of Big Apple Transit, similar to TfL with a governance structure, a new entity that integrates New York City's transit into one system. It's that kind of big thinking that will lead to real steps forward, that will lead to joy on the streets of our city, that reflects the dedicated work that this set of advocates and so many more have been doing for decades. And that is what I will deliver as mayor. That is a green light for New York City. Thank you very much. We're going to hear from a couple of those advocates, people who have been doing this even longer than I have, and people whose leadership has paved the way for the progress we've made and paved the way for the progress that I will make as mayor. So first off, it gives me great joy to introduce John Orcutt, truly one of the champions as an advocate and also one of the leaders from his time in city government at showing that partnership, at how we make progress, at fighting for it, and for delivering it. John Orcutt, thank you.
Thanks, Brad, and it's really a delight to be here today to endorse the green light for New York City that Brad has just released, to urge everybody to vote for Brad, rank him #1 for mayor. Look, changing cities is hard. Changing streets into places for people as well as places for traffic is really hard. We see that every time something is proposed in the city. This street, 4th Avenue, has had that application in place since 2014, but we do that somewhere else. It seems new to people and they still, sometimes have a fight about it. So it really is, and we see it, I've done this in New York City. I've done some consulting around the country and all over the world. And in every single place, in every single case, 99% ingredient of the recipe for progress is leadership. You have to have somebody who understands these issues, who looks at the facts, and who is willing to see through the battles and the arguments and sometimes the misinformation to see it through and get it done and show people that it works. This bike lane has hundreds of rides per day now. Brad is that leader. Brad has been the most consistent elected official, even before he was in government. Brad was looking at these issues and working on better streetscape and a better landscape for our city at the Pratt Institute. But it was just months into his term at City Council, the Prospect Park West bike lane fight hit the fan. Brad looked at the facts rather than at who was supporting and opposing it, came in and helped us get it done from City DOT. It's now one of the most used bikeways, not just in Brooklyn, but in the whole city. People using it in droves every single day. And we have the counts to show that. Brad has just gone on from there to lead on transit issues, subway signals, subway accessibility, driver accountability, safer streets in his council district and across the city. And no one has been a more stand-up guy on congestion pricing than Brad. He looked at the facts. He saw that it would work. He led us through the pause. He led us through the dark days before we even had a plan to do it. And it's working great now. And it gives us all kinds of new opportunities to do things with the city, with city streets. We don't have that leadership in City Hall today. We're not going to get that leadership from Andrew Cuomo. Look at his record. Cuomo focused on rebuilding airports while the subways crumbled. Look at all the details in Brad's plan. It's a plan for all New Yorkers. It's a green light for NYC. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And yeah, I got to know John. Actually, I got to know both of our speakers today in the context of that fight around the Prospect Park West bike lane, which I had supported as a community board member and then stepped up and supported as a council member. John at the time was at New York City Department of Transportation, and he saw the vision of how a network of protected bike lanes could make biking thrive in New York City and keep people safe, and implemented it there and then continued to do just extraordinary work pushing forward. And it is a real honor to have his support. I also met Aaron Naprostek in the context of that fight as well. He was one of the leaders of the families group at the time that said, the families of this neighborhood want this protected bike lane, and helped show in partnership with others what it looks like when a neighborhood steps up and says, we have a vision of a safer and more livable city. We're going to push for it, we're going to win it, and we're going to protect it. And I was honored to get to know him in that. And then a couple of years later, after that horrible crash that I mentioned at Fifth Avenue and 9th Street, I went back to Aaron, who said, you know what, we need to push forward with new infrastructure, and we needed a transformative plan for 9th Street. But there's also a lot we could do using data. We've got all this data from the speed cameras and the red light cameras, from insurance companies. We know what works to use data to get at reckless driving. Let's use that in a way that actually pushes to get reckless drivers off the road. And in many ways, his insights were the ground on which we built the Reckless Driver Accountability Act, which was proven to reduce recidivism and get reckless drivers off the streets. And when I'm mayor, we're going to do both of those things. Focus on the infrastructure and move forward to that network of protected bike lanes, of center running and genuine BRT, of all the things that are here in the plan. And we're going to use data in a smarter way to make sure we're managing those streets, getting at reckless drivers, getting them off the road, and managing for a safer city. Aaron, thank you for all that partnership. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such an honor to be asked to speak here and to endorse Brad. There's really, I've been involved in transportation policy in New York City for about 25 years now, so far too long. And Brad has really been just the best elected official we've had in that time. There's no question in my mind. He and his staff have been the most effective, the most creative, the smartest, and the hardest working when it comes to transportation policy issues, and just generally guided by the right set of principles. I just feel like we're really lucky to have Brad Lander in public policy and public life in New York City. I'll give you an example, a story. Brad mentioned it when we had this horrible incident on 9th Street in Park Slope in 2018. 2 young children were killed by a reckless driver who had a history of, medical issues and dangerous driving. The city had all of the data that could have sort of captured this driver's issues and reached out to this driver in some form or another and gotten this person off the road. But the city had no way to really do that. And, the normal thing for a city council member, a good city council member, to do after a terrible incident in their district is to call for a street redesign and sort of leave it at that. And Brad did call for a street redesign on 9th Street, and that got done. But in addition, he and his staff spent the next 2 years developing the Reckless Driver Accountability Act, which was really, truly one of the most creative policy-making initiatives I've seen in the transportation space ever in my 25 years in New York City transportation. And, there were powerful interests were against that piece of legislation. It was difficult. It required a lot of new thinking and new work and new bureaucratic, wrangling. And Brad and his staff just did it. And that's what Brad, I've seen him do it again and again and again. He did it on the Prospect Park West bike lane. He did it with the Gowanus rezoning, which, by the way, has a lot to do with transportation policy. Brad is just, if you care about safer streets, if you care about better and more affordable transit, and if you care about a better run city, I just feel like there is one choice in this election, and it is Brad Lander.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. That makes me actually want to mention a few of those staff members because, as Aaron said, I've been proud to work with these folks as allies, and we are blessed in this city with an extraordinary set of advocates who just get up every day and fight for safer streets. And I want to honor the courage and the work of Families for Safe Streets, who get up every day and fight for the lives of other people's children, in so many cases having lost their own family members, and who yet find the courage. So there's courage, there's smarts, there's dedication. I've been proud to be an ally, and I have been blessed with the best staff on these issues. So I just want to shout them out. I'm not implicating them. Some of them are continue to work for the city of New York, but I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't thank them for this track record. So like that has been Michael Friedman-Schnapp, Annie Levers, Julia Ehrman, Catherine Zinel, and Sindhu Bharadwaj, and Rachel Goodman as well, people who have been there with me every step of the way from that fight for the Prospect Park West bike lane up through the congestion pricing litigation, for the plans that we put out in the controller's office for that work on the Reckless Driver Accountability Act. So big ups to all of them. All right. Oh, all right. All right.
And your star volunteer.
Yes, okay, and Omar, our star volunteer, too. Let's give it up for Omar. But yes, to all those folks, but with Annie here, we have to give her extra. Oh, and Cindy is here, too. All right, amazing. Okay, awesome. All right, and now we will take some questions.
I will go first. Just look at me. But okay, so there's a lot to this plan, but
Yes.
I did want to focus a little bit on the transit part of it. I know
Yeah, of
everyone's
course.
interested in that. So, you know, you talked a little bit about Governor Cuomo's failure and raiding the MTA money, etc. But, you know, he's not the governor anymore. What is the advantage of having the city run the subway system? Because, you know, people have talked about this before.
Yeah.
Right now, people seem to be generally happy with the MTA governance structure, General Lieber, for example. So why do you want that, and what would make it better?
Yeah, I mean, what's in the plan is to figure out how to do unified control where it brings advantages. And that's the idea. I mean, I gave one example, which is just Omni, right? So it's bonkers right now that the same system doesn't enable you to go from subway to city bike or from ferry to bus. And then some of this could be regional as well. This is like no reason your Omni can't get you one seat ride to Newark. I am not proposing that, and we take control of New Jersey Transit, but in that case, like one step forward in that case, just unified access would be a huge advantage. That's part of what Transport for London is able to do. Or one other example I'll give is BRT and bus service. Obviously, having the set of people who are driving the buses work for somebody different than the people who control the streets is a big impediment. I mean, one of the big parts of the big visions of bus rapid transit was interborough. And it's not interborough in part because the MTA's got its bus routes organized. So when they did borough bus redesigns, they just thought about it there. And I want to see interborough bus rapid transit. So I'm not saying that what we should do in the short term is focus on governance restructuring. What I'm saying is we should focus on unified systems, unified management in ways that make transit easier for people. And if down the road that would lead to a more fundamental shift, I think it's an interesting idea to explore. But let's start. I even mentioned just the all-door boarding, right? So for all-door boarding to be effective, there's going to also have to be a different approach to fare collection, because now half the people aren't paying their fares on the buses. MTA seems resistant to doing all-door boarding because of the lack of it. So let's have the city and the MTA team up and say, let's get all-door boarding and have the city involved more effectively in achieving that goal. So the benefits of unified management are more effective bus service, or an easier time for commuters, and a more unified system.
But I don't get that what you said about the all-door boarding. How does city control the MTA? Suddenly have all
The plan is not. I mean, the plan is not city control of MTA. The plan is increasingly unified control of the system, and there's a lot of great steps to that. An integrated Omni would be a fantastic step, right? Like if we could let's leave the PATH train aside for 1 minute. If the city and the MTA just made Omni work, so that you had seamless route between subway, bus, city bike, and ferry. What a great step forward that would be. If the city and the MTA teamed up more effectively on interborough bus rapid transit, if the city and the MTA teamed up more effectively to guarantee both all-door boarding and effective fare enforcement, those would be steps toward more unified management of the system. That is what I am proposing.
Last time there was a proposal similar to this with the city having oversight over transit and buses was, I believe, after the summer of health when Andrew Cuomo was governor. Let's say this plan does move forward, but Cuomo's our mayor. What would that mean for riders in the subways if something like him had oversight over the subways?
Look, Andrew Cuomo was a disastrous leader on transit as governor, and I believe he'll be a disastrous leader on transit as mayor. I mean, and let's just look at the thing that has been most bad under Eric Adams and would be most bad under Andrew Cuomo, which is giving in when real estate developers say, "Don't put the bike lane or the bus lane on my block," right? Like, and let's take Ashland, right, where we have that one block of Ashland where they made a plan. I mean, the DOT plan is to have a protected bike lane, and they caved in response to one phone call. Given that Andrew Cuomo's donors are basically the same real estate developers who have given to Eric Adams, they'll expect the same thing, and he's made clear he'll give it to them. I mean, in every situation, he'll do what he thinks is in his personal, political advantage. That is corruption, and it has been endemic of the Adams administration. It was endemic of the Cuomo administration, and there's every reason to believe that's what Andrew Cuomo's City Hall would be. So we still won't get the Fordham busway. We still won't get the McGinnis bike lane. Look, there's a pledge to deliver on the McGinnis bike lane. I don't think Andrew Cuomo has signed it. I don't think there's any reason to think we'll get the Ashland bike lane continued. So yes, I mean, if Andrew Cuomo is mayor, we will not have the world-class transit and livable streets leadership that New Yorkers deserve.
Brad, did you fix your lead foot problem?
Sorry?
Did you fix your lead foot problem?
So, I mean, look, I'm really happy to talk about this. 4 years ago when I was running for controller, I have always been, as you heard here, like a passionate safe streets advocate, and have not always lived up to that. But yes, over the past 4 years, I only have one speed camera violation. This is how accountability works. And I think it's what New Yorkers want. Like, New Yorkers want accountability when people harm their neighbors, whether that's in a vehicle or with some other activity. They want accountability from their elected officials. That Reckless Driver Accountability Act that I was proud to sponsor was delivering accountability for New York's most reckless drivers. People can change their behavior, as my behavior shows, and where they don't, we have to get tougher at saying you can't operate your car like a weapon aimed at your neighbors. That's why I support the super speeder legislation in Albany, and why I will bring back the Reckless Driver Accountability Act, so that we can make sure we've got safer streets for every single New Yorker. And yeah, I was not proud of my record 4 years ago, but I am proud of what I've done both over the last 4 years personally and over my entire career as a transit advocate. If New Yorkers want to see what accountability looks like and what it looks like to move forward with a vision of safer and more livable streets, they should go with the candidate for mayor that the vast majority of New York City's safe streets and public transit advocates are supporting.
Off topic, what do you think of Adams' third-party line to end anti-Semitism?
I mean, yesterday there was like a horrible competition for who could weaponize anti-Semitism in the most gross and appalling way. Would the competition go to Eric Adams for literally thinking it would make sense for him to create a ballot line for his own crass political purposes, weaponizing anti-Semitism just for himself? No Jews would be made safer by Eric Adams' Stop Anti-Semitism ballot line. The only single person who would benefit is Eric Adams, who is not Jewish last time I checked. But then the competition was coming from MAGA Republicans, who literally on the very same night that Eric Adams announced his Stop Anti-Semitism personal ballot line, they announced that they're going to move forward with legislation in the name of anti-Semitism that's going to repress free speech for others, but for themselves, for the MAGA Republicans, they'll still be able to say that Jews killed Jesus under their own anti-Semitism law, like what we need right now. None of that. Not Eric Adams' ballot line, and not MAGA Republicans' phony bill will make Jews safer or will make anyone else safer. I mean, and as the highest ranking Jewish elected official in New York City government, what will make Jews safe is combating hate more broadly. Just like I've got a comprehensive transportation plan, I've got a comprehensive plan for cracking down on hate crimes and anti-Semitism. What we have to do is take it seriously, not with I don't even know what to say, like strange personal quirks that would try to turn it into a ballot line.
Do you think the protesters should have made it to Crown Heights to protest and have all those street brawls in the Hasidic part of Crown Heights?
I think what we need right now is for everybody to turn down the temperature. There are a lot of strong feelings, and no one is made safer by folks who want to fight it out on the street. So, I feel pretty passionately about these issues myself. They're ones I have cared about for 30 years. I've been pretty clear where I stand on them. It is possible to get your point of view across without elevating violence on the streets of our city. I thought that what happened 2 or 3 nights ago, where protesters were subject to violence and harassment, was appalling. I think what the Trump administration is doing, arresting protesters for free speech or for writing op-eds, is appalling. I think what MAGA Republicans and Eric Adams are doing is ramping hate up for their own political purposes. What leaders need to be doing right now is bringing people together. You can express your point of view, of course, with free speech, but let's do all we can to turn temperatures down and not have brawling on the streets of our city.
I guess my question was, do you think the protesters should have went to the Jewish part of Crown Heights? Should they have been there in the first place?
I mean, it's not for me. I guess what I'm going to say is, elected officials don't pick the time, place, and manner of people's free speech. But there's a difference between what you've got the right to do. No one should be being deported for what they're saying. I mean, this is the problem when the president himself is weaponizing immigration laws and deporting people for free speech. Folks lose track. People have the right to speak freely, and the right thing for everyone to do, regardless of their opinion, is to try to turn the temperature down so we have less hate and less violence rather than more.
But if you violate the laws of protesters, shouldn't there be repercussions? And if you are not a U.S. citizen, isn't that more? Doesn't the federal government have more leeway?
In all the cases that I'm familiar with so far, in the case of Mahmoud Khalil and Mohsen Madawi, I am not familiar with one single alleged violation of any laws. Like, these are people who wrote op-eds, who participated in nonviolent protests. In some cases, they're people who weren't even wearing masks because, and that's why Trump has targeted them. So no, I mean, the right of people to speak freely when we agree with them and when they don't is a fundamental constitutional right. And the fact that we've moved now into a situation where the White House denies due process to people, even as they're deporting some of them to torture prisons, it is a...
Violating the law.
But the folks who I'm talking about, we're talking about 2 different incidents. The folks that I'm talking, the students who have been arrested and are being threatened with deportation for their speech in support of Palestinian human rights, are people, and I don't think there's one case where they've been alleged to have broken any laws. So I just don't.
She referred to the deportations, and we just learned that the second student was returned to the Colombian student this morning. So that's good. But that's all the time we have. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
We get a